Today we're making some super soft and ultra pillowy milk rolls. A milk roll is just a dinner roll that's made with a lot of milk, so they turn out extra soft and feathery, and they stay like that for a couple of days. You might think they're really hard to make, but they're actually really easy, and they don't even take much time. In fact, if you're a beginner bread maker, this might be a good recipe for you. I'm going to start with some lukewarm milk. And if I stick my finger in that, I can feel that it's just barely lukewarm. You don't want your milk too hot. To that, I'm going to add some sugar and 2 teaspoons of yeast. I'm using instant yeast, but you can use active dry, of course. I'm going to mix that together really well, so it's really well combined. Now I'm going to let this sit for 5 to 10 minutes, or until it looks really foamy like this. And if this doesn't happen to your yeast, then do not proceed with the recipe. Try it again. Maybe your milk was too hot and it destroyed the yeast, or it could be that your yeast was past the expiration date. Now in a nice large bowl, I'm going to add some flour. Here I have some milk powder and some salt. Just going to mix that together really well with my hand and form a little well in the center. Now I'm going to add my yeast mixture right into that well. Get every little bit in there. And I'm just going to start kind of mixing this together with my hand. And this should form a very sticky dough. Of course, you can do this in a stand mixer with the dough hook attachment, but I'm just going to do it by hand today. We have to knead this for about 5 minutes, and it should be so sticky that it almost drives you crazy. But don't be tempted to add more flour. If you measure the ingredients by weight using grams, then you should have no trouble at all. If your dough isn't this sticky, then add more milk to make it sticky. This is a secret to getting a really soft roll. You can use a little scraper if you need to, just to kind of get all the dough incorporated. After a few minutes, this dough is going to become less sticky. So after about 4 or 5 minutes of kneading, now I'm going to add some very soft butter and just start kneading that into the dough. Now it's going to become even less sticky for you. You can keep using that scraper to keep your bowl nice and clean. And I'm just going to keep kneading this until it's very smooth and elasticy. And by the way, if you're enjoying this video, then let me know by hitting that like button. And if you're looking for the complete printable recipe for these rolls, as always, I've linked it in the description. Now this can take up to 15 minutes of kneading for it to be completely ready and not sticking everywhere, so just be patient. Of course, if you're using your machine, it's a lot easier. But you can see here that the dough is already becoming a lot less sticky. It's not sticking to my hands as much, and I also noticed that it's pulling more and more away from the bowl. So that's a good sign. All right, I've been kneading this dough for about 12 minutes now, and you can see that it is way, way less sticky. It's not sticking to the bowl anymore. It really pulls away nicely, and my hands also are pretty clean considering how sticky this dough was. If your dough looks like this now, then you did it right. You can also see that it's super soft. Now I'm going to drizzle a little bit of oil in the bowl and move the dough around a little bit to kind of coat it. We're going to let this proof right in the bowl, and the oil prevents it from sticking too much after it's proofed. I'm going to just cover this with a piece of plastic so that it's touching the bowl. That'll prevent a crust from forming. And now we're going to let this rise for 1.5 to 2 hours, depending on how warm your house is. My house is pretty warm today, so this only took about 1 hour to practically more than double. So once your dough looks something like this, you can just punch it down and release some of those air bubbles. I'm going to take it out of the bowl. And now we can start dividing it into our rolls. I'm just going to kind of knead it for couple of seconds here just to bring it all together again. And there's a number of ways you can divide it. I want to get about 9 rolls. So maybe if I pat it out into a circle, try to sort of cut it into thirds like this, more or less. Try to get 3 equal-ish pieces. Doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but do your best. And now I'll take each one of these pieces and divide it into thirds. So I'm just using my scraper here. You can also cut dough with it, or you can just use a knife. Get thirds out of this one and also this one. So there we have 9 even-ish pieces of dough. Just gonna move these aside. I'm gonna take each piece of dough and sort of stretch it like this, pinching the seam on the bottom. Just pinch the bottom like that, and then lay it down on your surface, and then you just cup your hand like this, like a C, and then you just kind of roll the dough ball like this. You want to give it some really nice tight surface tension across the top, and doing this will really help you get that. Now these look pretty small right now, but we are going to let them rise a second time. I'm going to repeat the same thing with all the pieces of dough. Just form it into this ball by kind of stretching it and pinching the seam at the bottom, and then just roll it like this to get that nice tight surface tension. Once your dough balls are all rolled out, now you'll want to get yourself a pan. This is an 8-inch square. I greased the sides and lined the bottom with parchment paper. I'm just gonna put them into the pan just like this. 3 on each side and 1 in the middle, just like so. Now I'm gonna cover them and let them rise again, this time for maybe 30 to 45 minutes until they're almost doubled. Because my house is pretty warm today, these only took about less than 40 minutes to double like this. My oven has been preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and before I put them in, I'm going to take a little bit of milk and just brush the tops of these. That's going to help them get nice and brown on the top. Now, if you wanted to, you could sprinkle a little sugar over these right now, or pretty much anything you'd like. And I'm going to bake these for about 20 minutes or until they're a nice golden brown like this. And they should sound a little hollow when you tap on them. I don't know if you can hear that, but these took exactly 20 minutes. Now for a finishing touch, I'm going to take a piece of butter and rub it on each dinner roll on the top. And that's going to give it a really nice shine and add a lot of flavor too. And you want to do that while they're nice and hot because you want the butter to just melt right into them. Wow, these look perfect. It's a good idea to let them rest in the pan for about 10 minutes before taking them out. But this is what the bottom looks like. It should be that nice light golden brown color. Normally you have to let breads like this cool completely before serving them, but with rolls, they're actually better when you serve them warm. We're gonna go ahead and pull these apart so you can see. I have to say that of all my years of baking bread, both as a professional and a home cook, I don't think none of them turned out as soft and pillowy as these milk rolls. The secret was in the sticky texture of the dough as well as the addition of the milk powder. And I can't even tell you how rich and buttery the flavor of this bread is. How good would one of these rolls be with a bowl of chili or any type of soup? And they're perfect to use as slider buns. In fact, this bread turns out so soft that if you wrap them really well, even 3 days later, they're still pretty soft and fluffy. Normally these are gone the day I make them, but we have a lot of treats right now and these kind of accidentally got neglected, so it was a perfect chance to show you how they are 3 days later. I know that when you make these, you'll make them over and over again, so take this one with you and enjoy.